Algebra 1 skills number 15, solving systems of equations, this time using the elimination method. It's a reminder of what a system of equations is when you have two or more equations with the same variables. Okay, so the process with elimination is going to be to multiply one or both equations, depends on what you have, so that the coefficients of one of the variables are opposites. Doesn't matter if it's x or y, we're looking for opposites. That would be like 5 and -5, 2 and -2, and so forth. You're going to then add the equations, solve the remaining variable, then back substitute. We'll talk about that process as we go through these examples. So here's the first example. Again, system of equations. You have this x and y on both of them, and we got to figure out what values of x and y make both of these equations true at the same time. So what we're going to do is first take the strategy of, which one should I go for? Should I go for x or should I go for y? And you could go for either, but y is better for two reasons here. Number one, the signs are already opposite, which is good. But more importantly, 3 goes into 12. 5 does not go into 7 evenly. So this is a little cleaner and easier to work with the y's. So what I did was multiply the entire equation by 4. Okay. Now multiplying the entire equation by something is perfectly legal because you're multiplying both sides of that equation by that something. When you do that, now this is just the first equation rewritten. The second equation becomes 28x plus 12y equals 104. Notice that both the x and the constant over here are affected, even though we're not really aiming for that. We're aiming for the y. You have to multiply the entire equation by 4. And obviously in red, we have these opposites now. That's what we're after. Okay, so the same two equations. We're going to add the equations together. Now this is also legal because you're adding equals to equals. 28x plus 12y is the same thing as 104. So you're adding two things that are equal to each other to an already established equation. So this is perfectly legal. And what happens when you add opposites? Well, they become 0, and you don't have to write 0. So you effectively eliminated y, and this is easy to solve for x. Okay, so we multiplied one equation by a number to make the coefficients of y be opposites. We then add the equations, solve for that variable. Now we got to go back and get y. Okay, so here's the original system. Y is 2. Now you just pick an equation, doesn't matter which one. They look fairly equal here. I just chose the top. We figured out that I said y is 2. Sorry, x is 2. Okay, x is 2. So I plugged 2 in for x, and now we just work that out. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, and finally divide both sides by -2, or -12. So y is 4, and since x is 3 and y is 4, okay, if you go back and saw where we had x to be 3. So x is 3, y is 4. Second example. Now this time, x and y look roughly equal as far as which one's better. 5 doesn't go into 6, 8 doesn't go into 9, and both are already opposite. So let's just go for x here. It'd be different on this one. Okay, so what we've got to do here is think about, well, what can I multiply these by to make them be the same? In 6 and 5, the LCD of 6 and 5 is just the product of 6 and 5, 30. It always works where you can just multiply each equation by the other one. So in other words, multiply this one by 5 and multiply this one by 6. Now when you do that, make sure they're going to end up being opposite. And they already are opposite, so I'm good here. Okay, so I'm just going to distribute the 5. You get 30, -40, and then 46 times 5 is 230. Same thing here, 6 times 5, 6 times 9, 6 times -50. Notice again the red, we have these opposites. So let's add those together. Okay, so they eliminate when I add them together. So 14y equals -70. Solve for y. Okay, so this time y is -5. So we go back to the original. Again, pick an equation. Doesn't matter which one. This time y is what we have, not x. So I put in for y. I chose the top again. You could just as well choose the bottom. So I put -5 in for y. And then we'll work that out. -8 times -5 is 40. Subtract 40 from both sides. 46 minus 46. Now x is 1. And when we write our answer, we write it as an ordered pair. So even though I found -5 first, I write it last because that's the y value. And one more thing you could do is just plug them back into both equations and make sure they make both equations true.